Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and I wanted to provide you all an update on the Scout as promised because we've seen some pretty significant changes to it since 2.3a, and now we're up to 2.3d, meaning we're 4 iterations in. Now, and I was right in my assumption that the speeds were just placeholders from the Hornet because now the thing can really move and groove and does compete with racers because it's got a SCM speed of 290 meters per second. It's got 450 meters per second with afterburner and 900 in cruise. It is very noticeably different. And those are some pretty powerful speeds, and it does the ship much better than the original 220. Now, as far as maneuverability and drift go, both got significant improvements since the first time we had that ship really released to us. And the ship is actually now very capable of making sharp turns and changing directions relatively quickly without continuing along a specific line. I think a lot of what happened was how they simplified the moving parts. The wings are no longer shooting in random directions, however, the articulated thrusters that are mounted to each one of those wings do move and rotate, but they are very controlled. I don't know if it was intended before, but there was just too much going on for it to ever be consistent. During some maneuvers, the ship is a little bit slow to respond, but I think that has to do with the thrusters moving in different directions, and for the most part that seems to be an isolated issue. Now, the biggest issue that I've seen with this is, depending on the type of move, especially if yaw is involved, you can tend to overshoot your target a little bit, meaning you have to correct back onto the right course. I think the balance is going to continue to come, and I think you can start to get familiar with it now by counteracting once you start to expect it. But I can't decide if that's a lack of precision on the ship, meaning it's too maneuverable, or if it means it's not maneuverable enough to respond back in the opposite direction. So something will probably change with that, otherwise it's easy enough to counteract. Now, based on the new speed and agility, it's starting to match up to the description of the Bane of the UEE, and there's something very odd happening with the shooting right now, which kind of makes that Bane piece a little bit different. I've seen a lot of desync issues in the various PTU releases that we've had, and this doesn't appear to be the issue that I'm seeing right now. It almost seems like the pips on the screen might be thinking the weaponry on the ship is below the cockpit, almost like it is on every other ship for the most part, meaning that your pips aren't necessarily lined up perfectly or correctly. Now, it's predicted impact point. I'm well aware that it's not supposed to be perfect, but it's very off, and I don't know if that's the real reason or if it's just some programming deal, but aside from some bad aiming on my part, there's just more to it than just bad aiming and the predicted part of the PIP acronym. I think that aiming issue is being exasperated a little bit when using the M5A laser cannon, so what I ended up doing was pulling some of the Panthers off the Saber and using them on the Scout, and while they don't pack that same punch, they do have that nice spammability feature, and it kind of allows you to use constant fire to make visual adjustments to land your shots a little bit better, and that's been really helpful. So I'm interested to see what other people's takes are on the aiming issues right now, but there is something that's just not quite right about it right now. The durability and the shield strength here isn't great, but the shields do hold up well enough for you to kind of survive a decent-sized volley, and the way the ship can move, you can pretty easily get out of trouble. It definitely meets the purpose of avoiding shots and instead of just being able to tank through them when they're hitting you. Now, I was in a fight with a Saber and a Gladius, both teaming up on me around Security Port Korea, and I was having a really good time. I was able to avoid taking a lot of the damage while staying engaged on both of them, switching targets and just bouncing around. And granted, I was having a hard time landing shots, and when I did, I was able to get their shields down, but then I would have to outmaneuver, and then I'd maybe sometimes have to switch targets, so no one really died. It was just a long battle. But it was a good illustration of how a ship this fast and maneuverable can survive when played right, and if you get several of them working in tandem, I think this could be a really tough day for anyone to, walk out surviving. So changes are going to continue to come, and as they do, I'll keep you guys posted on it. But all in all, the ship is in a much better place right now. So if you have questions or comments about the ship or changes, please let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for a whole lot more content. I'll catch you guys all later, and take care.